Hello everyone and welcome to Java lesson number 28. Today we are going to talk about autoboxing and unboxing in Java. So you can open up your Eclipse program, go to the Package Explorer, create a new Java project, and you can name it lesson 28. There you can create, as always, a package, and we can also create our main class, which will contain the main method. You can auto-generate it with Eclipse. So first of all, we will do a small revision into arrays and array list. What are arrays? An array is a place to store integers or strings or whatever we want to, but they have some limits. For example, if I create an array, a box that will contain strings, I will name it my string array, and then new string, if I write here the number 10, I have created an array with 10 slots. This means that it can only contain 10 items inside of it, no more. I can't add more items than 10. If I create an array with integers, my int array, for example, and then I say I want 5 numbers inside of here, that's all I will get. I will only get 5 numbers. If I add 5 numbers and afterwards I want to add one more number, this isn't possible. This isn't something that can be done. Another way to store items is an array list. An array list is also, you can also imagine it as a box that you can store items inside of it, but it's an unlimited box. You can store there as much items as you want. For example, we can say array list, and then you define the type of the objects that will be inside this array list. For example, we can say I want it to contain strings, and I will call the variable the names, and then we can say new array list, inside of here you can either leave it empty or you can write string. It's the same, but let's write it now, or let's not. And here you get an error. Array list cannot be resolved to a type. That's why we haven't imported yet. Eclipse offers us the possibility to auto import it, or we can write it ourselves. I chose auto import that time. So we created a list, the names, where we can create as many names as we want and store them inside this list. The way to do it would be you write the names and then add. You can add, for example, Theo, a name. You can also add another one. Oh. Chris, for example. This is how to do it. If you want to store unlimited integers, but then you can write, for example, array list, then int, then my integers, and then you can say new array list, and then int here. But as you can see, Java tells us that this is a syntax error. We can't do that. The way, the reason that we can't do that, let's make a comment of it. We can't do that because inside these curly brackets, in these things, you can only store objects of a class, and integer is a primitive type, but string is a class. This is why we can use string here. A way to do it would be we could create a class. Let's create another class, and let's call this class int class, for example. Inside this class we will create a private int number, and then we can create a constructor you can open up here the brackets, and then you can say this number, and we can also auto add the getters and the setters of the number, so we can spare us some time. And here we could do the following. There, this integer, for example, these integers, for example, new array list. You don't need to complete something here, and there you have it. Now we have created an integer class, a class here that has here at the data field a private variable that takes the primitive type integer, and then you have a constructor, and the constructor, when we create an object of a class, we call the constructor here, and the constructor needs a number, and this number is an integer. And if we go here, we need a way to add it to our list. The list is the not the names, these integers. So we will try to add it. Let's try to add a number. Will it work? No, it won't. Why? Because as we can see, it needs an integer. So the way to do it would be, you will create an instance of this class, and you will add inside the parameter of the constructor the number that you want here. Now you have it, it is inside your list, and with this way you can add as many integers as you want. That will work, but it's a little bit messy. The way of Java helping us with that is the autoboxing. It provides us with a wrapper class. Not 50 Cent, not Eminem class, a wrapper class. Wrapper like wrapper. This way to write it. And actually, the class that we did create here is a wrapper class. And you will understand why. Because it wraps the primitive types inside this class so that we can use this class in case like this one here. And I will repeat myself again. Maybe you see now again the string and you wonder, this is a primitive class, why is it working? No, it's not a primitive class. Actually, string is a class. You can check it at the documents of Oracle and read about it. You can Google. If you check what we did above, as I told before, we created a wrapper class. So in Java there are classes like, for example, integer class, and you can say integer, my integer, or my int, and then you say new integer, and you put the number inside, for example 50, and there you go, you have it. Or another class would be the double class. You can say my double, new double, and here you can say 5.5, for example. Here, there you are. Now if you want to add them inside an array list, let's create an array list, and then you can say I want it to contain integers, and I will call it int array, and then you can say that it is a new array list, like that. It's array list, not array listy. There you go. And then we can create a for loop like we have already done in previous lessons. And then you can say we will create a local variable integer I, then we will do it, or we will do it only 5 times. We will do it this amount of times. It will be with 0 it will be 6 times. And then we can open up the brackets, and here we will say that our int array, and then we want to add. But what do we add? We actually add an integer, and we take the value of it. The value of it will be this here. This here is an integer, and the way to turn an integer, and the way to turn an int into an integer class object is with the method of the integer class value of. And for example, I will also write it as a comment. The value of method turns the integer into an object of the class integer, and this is called autoboxing. This is what autoboxing is. Let me explain it one more time. Here you create a local variable, and it is an int, a primitive type. So you can try to add inside your array list something here, a number. But in order to do that, that thing needs to be an integer, an object of the class integer, because here in the array list you can define the type, and you defined the type as an integer. So in order to turn the primitive int into an integer, into an object of the integer class, is with this method here. And then to print them back, you can also use a for loop here, and then you can say, for example, let's use the same for this one, and let's say system out print line, then int array, and then in order to get them, you will get them so here, and then you need the int value. This method gets an int class, gets an object of the integer class, because remember we have objects of the integer class here, and turns it into an int. Let's try this one. And as you can see, we take here returned these 6 numbers from 0 to 5. But Java makes it even easier for us. We can also write, for example, integer, a number, and give it a value, or double, a double, and a number. It's the same. Let's leave an empty line, and then I will also demonstrate it, because it's really a lot easier than it seems to be. Array list, and then you can also create it. Where is it? Here. And then if you want to add, for example, some numbers, you can also do the following. Let's also add these 6 numbers. You can also do my list, then add, and then only the number, because it's actually this what happens, integer, and then the value of, and here inside the I. This is actually what happens here. And in order to print it, we can also do it with the easy way. And here we will say my list and then size. If it was an array, we would use the method length. But here it is an array list, and we use the method size. And here you have 2 ways to do it. You can do it here like that, and then you can say my list get I, not index I, or you can save this thing here into a variable and let the variable get printed, but it's the same thing. And actually what actually happens here is the following. Integer and then the value of. This is the method that is being used. And let's see if it works. And it works. As you can see, this array list is just got printed here. So this is also the unboxing. And let's write it down also here. This is the autoboxing, and this is the unboxing. So the autoboxing is when you turn a primitive int into an object of the class integer, and the unboxing is when you turn an object of the integer class or another wrapper class and turn it into an integer, a primitive type. And you don't need a class like this wrapper class that we created, because these classes are already written, and you can use their methods on problems. This is how you can use quicker your code, easier, without thinking of creating a new class, because someone did bother to create these things and let them free for you to use. This was it for today. The autoboxing and the unboxing is something really important in Java. I hope that you could understand it, the basic concepts of it. If you have any questions, feel free to write on the comment section below or send me a message, and I will also try to make some challenges regarding autoboxing and unboxing so that you can practice a little bit. But you can also try to do your own challenges at home and make some experiments with them. Thank you all for watching.